Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hello, it's Monday afternoon. Officially, it's 12:01. And guys, we did it, I think. It's the unofficial final week of the NHL offseason. Hold on, just putting this tweet out. I have to do by myself. We all hope so. Just me again. JJ's a busy guy. Tell you this, guys, this all the time. JJ's got things going on. He's got another job. He's always out busy doing stuff. But we've made it the unofficial final week of the NHL off season, and we've got official, unofficial on-ice activities starting as early as next week, Labor Day week for a lot of teams. And the Avs rookies will be on the ice a week after that. So we've made it. We've made it through the NHL offseason. This has been, without a doubt, it's felt like the longest offseason of my my career working in media and working in hockey yet so far. I don't know what it was that was different about this summer. But man, oh man, it feels like it's been 6 months since I've been at the rink. So very much looking forward to getting back there in a couple weeks. Going to talk prospects today, and we're not going to get too far into the minutia of timelines for these Avs prospects, and there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is the Avs don't have a lot of prospects that are looking like they're destined for the NHL, and that's really what the conversation is going to mostly be around. Couple of things we'll talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about Yaroslav Askarov going to the San Jose Sharks as well, but we'll get into all that. Jay on the board, as always. There he is. Did a great job. He was hosting Guerrilla Sports Daily this morning. Learned a lot. Thought that was great. Always great when Jay jumps on some of that stuff. Look, I love doing all this. Love my job. Love being a part of all this, but it is nice sometimes when Jay can jump on, and like I said, he's coming for my job anyways. Do also want to start today's show. I don't know if she's watching, but just by giving a shout out to my very good friend Megan Angley. Announced today that she will be leaving DNVR. Her and I started at DNVR, so I worked for what's now DNVR, All City. Back in the earliest days when it was BSN, we had a little rented office down in Lakewood with little studios and things like that. And then I left the media space for a couple of years and came back. And actually, my first day starting back at DNVR was Megan's first day as an intern. If you're able to go back into the archives of Twitter and I don't know if it was Instagram too, but we were actually announced at the same time in the same post that I was joining to help with the Avs beat, and that Megan was coming on as an intern with the Avs beat as well. And that was in the thick of the 2022 Stanley Cup run. So I was out on the road a lot. I wasn't in the studio a ton. So Megan and I really were kind of like we were almost more working alongside each other than we were actually working with each other. But that next season, Megan Angley and I were actually assigned to the actual day-to-day beat. We were working with AJ Hafley and Rudo, who are both still with DNVR. And the way things had kind of been split up was that they were going to do the shows and stuff in studio primarily, and that Megan and I would be out in the field. So I remember her first training camp media day. We went and sat down before everything got started and just kind of, what do you want to do? Why are you in the industry? What are your goals? What are you chasing for? And so, I consider myself very lucky that I got to be there with Megan in a lot of the early steps. And I think everybody recognizes how talented she is and the potential she's got. I said it in a tweet this morning. Avs fans are really lucky to have someone like Megan in this market. She put on Twitter that she's going to stay in this market. So that's great for us. That's great for Avs fans. And that's, like I said, it's great for us, the people that know her, and have really come to enjoy working with Megan. So, wanted to give a big shout out to my good friend, Megan Angley. Excited to see, her continued growth and it's something that her and I have talked about. I know she's destined, for great things. So, super excited for Megan, that careers continue to grow and evolve, but with that comes change, and that's what the off season's for. Right. So, looking forward to what Megan's got to say with whatever's coming next. But just wanted to show some love to my friend Megan. She's a great person. Happy she's sticking around here. Yaroslav Askarov was someone we talked a lot about last week, requesting a trade from the Nashville Predators, saying, I don't have any interest in playing at the American Hockey League level. I see myself as an NHL caliber goaltender, an NHL caliber starter. A lot of people, the kind of general consensus coming into the season was that the Preds were probably going to start trying to move on from UC Saros, who's been a rock star in net for them for a decade plus, I believe, at this point. Maybe not that whole time as a starter, but he's been with Nashville for a long, long time. And then they signed him to an 8-year deal. And then they went out and acquired full-time NHL backups. And Askarov, who is widely considered to be the best prospect in hockey, said, yeah, I'm not interested in that. Thanks, but no thanks. Askarov came out and said, I don't have interest in returning to the American Hockey League. I feel I'm an NHL goaltender, and I feel like I've proven that time and time again, both in his showings in the NHL and with his dominance of the American Hockey League. And he said, I'm ready to move on. It was a significant moment in this process because Askarov has been someone that a lot of people have talked about over the last few years of, can we pry a prospect like that out of a situation where they have a guy like UC Saros in front, still young, still in his prime, and Nashville kind of looked at it as, well, we have this great asset that he's either, Askarov's either going to contribute to our organization, or we'll be able to trade him for a huge haul because of the upside that he's got. And with as hard as it is to find young goaltenders with that kind of upside, the thought process kind of was, well, whether it's him or UC Saros, we're going to be able to really, we've got the leverage here. We've got the advantage, and we're going to deal from a position of strength to really help move things forward. Well, I think the Predators kind of overplayed their hand with this. And we talked about, I think they kind of overplayed their hand with this and kind of fumbled the ball with these trade assets. You end up getting a conditional first. You get a goaltender back, and then you get a prospect forward in David Edstrom. With that, Nashville sent a 3rd-round pick as well as prospect forward Nolan Burke. I just feel like, had you made this move ahead of signing Saros, because once you signed Saros, you lost a lot of your leverage. And then once Askarov came out and said, yeah, not only am I requesting a trade, but I'm also not going to even show up till Milwaukee. I mean, you really kind of just put yourself in a position where you had to take the best package available. I don't think this is a bad package. You get a conditional first back with it. But I think it just, I'd be willing to bet that if you asked the Nashville Predators 6 months ago or around the trade deadline what they thought they would have gotten for Askarov, it probably would have been more than that. And you're probably talking legitimate roster players, maybe even plus a first round pick. So I don't know. I think San Jose is happy. Nashville got, again, potentially a first round pick in the deal back. And, I'm umming and ahhing because I forgot Askarov did the weightlifting celebration last year after winning in a shootout. He bench pressed the net. I forgot about that. And that video came up. The Avs, Elliot Friedman did report that as many as 5 other teams were in on it, potentially even more. And at the top of that list was the Colorado Avalanche. According to Elliot Friedman, the Avs were heavily in on Yaroslav Askarov. They understood, hey, this is a guy that can kind of reset us in net, get us young, and really, I said it last week that I think there was probably a lot of interest in the Avs heading into next season with a tandem of Yaroslav Askarov and Ilya Nabokov. There was probably a lot of conversation in that building of, holy smokes, we could make ourselves young with a ton of upside in net very quickly. I'd love to know what the Avs were offering in a package like that. And I think there's going to be a little bit of what I'm about to discuss that probably goes hand in hand with that. I mean, you're probably talking Justus Annunen, a conditional first. And then I don't know. Again, assuming that stuff is also coming back the way that Nashville did in this deal, where you're also, they're sending a 3rd round pick back plus a prospect. I don't know. You probably could have done Annunen, a conditional first, and Colby Ambrosio or something like that. Jack Achan. Jason Poland would have maybe been a good one. I think the Avs could have done it. I'd be willing to bet part of Nashville's thought process is, well, we don't want to send a guy that has Vezina potential and Vezina upside to another team in our division where we suddenly have to play him for the next 13 years and we got to go through him to win a Stanley Cup for the next 13 years. So that was maybe a factor to it. I like to see it. The Avs were in on it. I've gotten a lot of questions in the last couple of weeks about what do we see the Avs doing this year in season? Are they still going to try to be aggressive? And my answer for the most part has been, it's not that I don't think they're going to be aggressive, but I just think it's going to be difficult for them. I just think they're really kind of handcuffed by the situation. And I think it's going to be hard for them to be aggressive. What I like about the fact that we're seeing reporting that they were in on this is that's them saying, yeah, we're going to continue our philosophy of, if we think there's a way to make our team better, we're going to look into it. And we're going to try everything possible to improve our team and improve our chances both now and in the future. And I like that mindset's not changing, even though they're up against it a little bit. Even though there is the uncertainty around Gabe Landeskog, Val Nichushkin, which again, the type of uncertainty that is starting to become clearer. That the uncertainty is, well, it's going to be a matter of how do we fit these guys back in, more so than it is, are they coming back? And again, that was the other part that interested me about Askarov, was if you would have found a way to essentially, again, there would have been more around the deal, but if you would have found a way to flip him and Annunen, that would have actually saved you money. So it ends up being San Jose. The Avs were there in on it, but I do think that you can all look at that as a sign that the Avs are going to continue to be aggressive. And if there's a move out there that they think makes themselves like I said, better now organizationally, now or in the future, they are going to explore that option. So disappointing that they don't land this one. I think this would have been big for the Avs. I think it would have been great for the Avs. But not the end of the world. And it shows their cards on the mindset a little bit. Now, again, we're going to talk about the prospect pipeline as The Athletic put out their list today, their rankings of where every team ranks in terms of prospect pool strength. They had the Avs listed at 31st. We're going to talk about that a little bit in terms of the minutia of it a little bit. And while not every prospect pool is built the same necessarily. So I want to get into that. But just briefly, just run around the league on a couple things. Well, not even running the league. I'm kind of just running around my mind right now. Gabe Landeskog not on the ice today. Working his way back. Again, I'm just kind of running through things that are in my head because we're just having the money conversation and it just kind of got things going. And hey, JJ's not here and this is when he's supposed to be talking. So I'm just going to kind of take over. Gabe not skating today, but you're feeling really optimistic about when he's coming back. We have the article out last week. Someone in Russia, former Russian team scout who claimed they had talked to Val Nichushkin. He said his number one priority is to get back to the Avs. We have the article that comes out over the weekend talking to Mikko Rantanen, and he said, yeah, the contract negotiations are, once we get back into town, everything will pick up. Again, I'm still talking to folks, and they are still saying that, yes, the reason that there isn't that crazy of emphasis on it is because there's really not much to discuss. Everyone knows where it's going. That deal, I imagine, Elliot Friedman reported on this last week as well. Other teams around the league are looking at Mikko Rantanen and saying, yep, take his name off the board. That one's getting done here soon. So you're looking at those guys money-wise. Mikko Rantanen due for a raise. Gabe Landeskog coming back into the fold. Val Nichushkin coming back into the fold. Part of the reason the Avs prospect pipeline isn't that great right now. One, there's just not a lot of room for these prospects to be graduating up. The Avs have filled a lot of the spots, and spots that haven't been filled. Hold on. I was reading a comment and lost my train of thought. I think this is the last summer show that I've got to do by myself. JJ should be here tomorrow and on Friday. And then starting next week, we're in it. So he's here going forward. You guys are the best for sticking with me. Look at this. I haven't had my hair cut in 3 months. I finally got a haircut scheduled for Wednesday. This has just been a silly goose summer, and I'm here for it. I'm here for a silly goose time, and I don't care who knows it every single day. And thank you guys for sticking by me and putting up with me all summer long by myself on these shows. I get distracted, and I'm reading stuff here and there, and my wires get crossed. But I think this is the last one. I think you guys made it. So thank you. Where I was going with all of that is the Avs are in a situation right now with and by right now, I mean this window that they're in. I got asked last week, what's this Avs team championship window? And I said at least 5 more years, probably even a little bit beyond that if you get some injury luck. The Avs have very intentionally put themselves in a position where, again, we ran through it. If you plug Gabe Landeskog and Val Nichushkin back into this lineup, not only are there very few, if any, very few, maybe Cal Ritchie, rookies, it's a veteran, very experienced team. And when you have that and you are in a highly competitive championship window, B and C level prospects typically see them see themselves are seen. It's kind of expendable. They're usually moved to add veteran players who can help you win right now today. A lot of these prospect pipeline things are, based on how many players you have that have NHL potential. Now, what I was going to say when we were talking about the money and relating this back to Askarov, this prospect list for the Avs has, in my opinion, 2 players that are NHL ready right now, and then 2 players that I think have impactful NHL potential. Sam Malinsky, Cal Ritchie, I think are 2 players that, and I'm sticking with it for now. This will probably change in just a couple weeks. I'm sticking with it for now. I still think Sam Malinsky should be on this roster going into the season. I think he's at that level. I think he's ready. I think he showed last year he can do everything you asked of him. I also think Cal Ritchie has all the tools, and I think this is the next step for him. Am I ready to say that Cal Ritchie is ready for a full-time NHL job? No, I haven't seen him up close in person on the ice against NHL caliber players, but based on everything we've seen, based on the way that his development projects, the way that he's developed in the last year, I don't see anything left for him at the level that he can return to. So I think the next natural level, I think he should be going to the American Hockey League, but we've got a stupid set of rules that prevents that. So I think he should be in the NHL. And the Avs are in a position where they need those players for salary reasons. You need cheap young players. That's the main argument when you're talking about a team where the Avs are at. The main argument for having prospects ready to graduate to the NHL level are you need cheaper prospects. You need the money to make sense. Cal Ritchie, if he can stick with the Avs, could be an unbelievable bargain on your third line. Sam Malinsky would be the cheapest option of everybody competing for a spot on that bottom pairing. Just as Yaroslav Askarov would have been about half the cost, and maybe even a little bit less than what you're paying Justus Annunen. So that is the argument for why you need prospects and why the Avs being 31st out of 32 is concerning, is because you sit there and you say, yeesh, you really don't have many guys, if any, that can take an NHL job, be a legitimate, impactful player, and save you some money. Because it is hard where it's like, and they haven't even announced who's number 1 yet. They're doing it kind of in chunks throughout the day. The Athletic is who they have at number 1, but you're probably going to end up with teams like Anaheim, Arizona, San Jose, Chicago. Those are the teams with the best prospect pipeline. Go back to I believe it was 18 or 2019. So it was 16, 17. I think it was 2018. The Avs were considered to have the second best or best prospect pipeline. Cale Makar graduates. Alex Newhook graduates. Justus Annunen has graduated. The Avs, not all that long ago, were at the very tippy top of this list. And let me ask fans out there, would you trade places with the Anaheim Ducks? Would you trade places with the San Jose Sharks and say, oh, well, our prospect pipelines are great? What about with the Arizona Coyotes? Or I guess Utah Hockey Club? Would you trade places with them? That's part of the minutia here. Is the teams that are at the top of this are at the top of it because they're currently acquiring prospects and assets to try and get better. The other part of this that again can just be a little bit misleading. And part of what I think leads to a lot of people criticizing the Avs for they don't draft and develop. And yes. Outside of the first round, there's not a lot. It's not a lot. I'll give you that. But the part that I do think is funny, and part of what I genuinely do believe leads to a little bit of the confirmation bias of the fan base of, man, it feels like it's been, the Avs don't develop any prospects. There's no prospects that sit in the AHL, then move up. Well, the Avs went through a long stretch where they were drafting well, and those players just had to go straight to the NHL. There was no time to sit around and wait. The Avs weren't good enough. They were graduating those players directly to the NHL. And yes, of course, when we talk about the after the first round stuff, we leave out Ryan O'Reilly and Tyson Barrie and Connor Timmins. Of course, we leave those guys out as guys who were drafted by the Avs after the first round. Maybe with the exception of Connor Timmins, Connor Timmins, all were played impactful roles with the Avs, then went on to have very good NHL careers, although Tyson Barrie currently sitting out there right now without a job. But, the Avs were graduating players directly to the NHL for a long time. Now, over the last handful of years, as the Avs have pushed for Stanley Cups, pushed to be contenders, a lot of those guys who would have come in and filled in around the fringes and, helped out in depth roles have been traded, have been moved. You think of Justin Barron, a defenseman, a first-round pick, a lot of upside, a guy from Cole Harbour, knows Nathan MacKinnon very well, had trained with him in the offseason, had played for the Mooseheads in Halifax, just like MacKinnon had. Comes to Colorado, starting to look really promising. And this is the other part that I always like to remind people with prospects. Prospects that are graded high or rated high are highly coveted is not a guarantee to be successful. And I'm not trying to bury Justin Barron here. But Justin Barron was traded from the Avs to the Montreal Canadiens along with a first-round pick for Arturi Lehkonen. And he got to Montreal, played just 5 games, and scored a goal, picked up an assist, and looked really good. And yes, Avs fans got over that very quickly because of how quickly Arturi Lehkonen came in and not only fit in, not only was impactful, but put his immediate stamp on Avs history twice. Overtime goal to send them to the Stanley Cup Finals, and then what ended up being the Stanley Cup winning goal. So Avs fans forgot about Justin Barron pretty quickly. But again, there was this kind of sense of like, dang, who did the Avs just give up? He showed up in Montreal and was immediately impactful. Well, since that 5-game stretch with the Canadiens where he scored a goal, had an assist, he even got off to a hot start the next season, scored a couple goals early. People started to wince. He got hurt, ended up finishing the season in the American Hockey League with the Laval Rocket. Started the season in the NHL this past season, didn't stick. Back down to the American Hockey League with Laval. Again, Justin Barron, I think a lot of upside. I think an exciting player. But it just goes to show, we're now 2 years removed from Arturi Lehkonen scoring the overtime winner to send the Avs to the final, and then the Stanley Cup winning goal. And Justin Barron really has yet to take a stranglehold on his NHL career and really become an impactful player with the Canadiens. That's the mode that the Avs are in right now. Take the prospects that we think have high upside and swap them for players that can help us right now. Question here in the chat. So can the Avs not draft or develop or both? Picks are basically lottery tickets. I think the Avs I think the Avs develop just fine. I think that's maybe the biggest misconception about all of this. I think there's countless examples of the Avalanche organization not only being okay with developing players, but actually excelling in player development. So that's the one thing. I do think there's an argument to be made that the Avs aren't drafting well after the first round. Now, again, I think this does not. I think this whole conversation, whether you're talking drafting or developing, I do think you have to do it with the context of outside of the first round. The Avs have been very good in round one. Very good. Obviously, Connor Bleakley was a miss from the mid-2010s. But then other than that, the only real other player that you could say they've missed on was Martin Count. I'm not even going as far back as Duncan Siemens in 2011 because that was like that and the Connor Bleakley pick are like some of the worst first-round picks this organization has ever made. But so I'm not going to go that far back. But, especially under this regime, Martin Count is the only one that you could even argue, yeah, that really didn't go well. That was a late first-round pick. They got NHL games out of him, and they got assets out of him in a trade. So I think to answer the question here, if you're trying to say which is it the Avs are bad at, they're bad at drafting outside of the first round because there's a lot of examples of them developing players effectively. But I do agree with the end of the comment here that draft picks are lottery tickets. They're little scratchy lotteries. And you the more draft picks you have, the more lottery tickets you have, which increases your odds that one of them is going to hit. But we ran through the numbers, I believe, when we were in Vegas, and I'll pull them again for the show tomorrow. But the number of players from the first round that go on to play 100 NHL games is lower than you'd think. And it falls off a cliff as soon as you go to the second round. So again, I even struggle to paint it with a broad paintbrush and say the Avs are bad at drafting because again, in the 2010s, they had second round picks that were impactful. Connor Timmins, yes, I know he was the first pick of the second round. He was the first pick on day 2, but again, he was a second round pick that brought them the goaltender that won them the Stanley Cup. Connor Timmins was the linchpin in the trade with the Arizona Coyotes to acquire Darcy Kemper because of the upside he had. So, these arguments are so multi-layered that it's hard to just say, oh, the Avs don't have a good prospect pool. Because, like I said off the top, there are 4 guys that I think this year could have an impact at the NHL level. And I don't know, to be a Stanley Cup contender and have 4 guys in your organization that you think could be NHL caliber guys, and that doesn't even count Kovalenko, who I'm already kind of marking as graduated. So, that also doesn't count Mikhail Gulyayev, who has another year in his KHL deal, who isn't eligible to come over yet, who I think is a quality NHL potential player. But Sean Behrens is another one who I think has NHL upside. I do. I just think that you've got more guys here than I think maybe they're getting credit for. And then I think Nabokov is really interesting. I think you've got Nabokov, Oscar Olausen, Sam Malinsky, Jean-Luc Foudy, Sean Behrens, Mikhail Gulyayev, and then if you want to count Kovalenko as someone who's still a prospect, and then I didn't even say Richie yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that I think have NHL potential and upside. And given where the Avs are at right now in their competitive window, I think you should really like that if you're the Avs. Are you thrilled with it? Are you over the moon with it? No. Is that a weaker prospect pool than what a lot of other teams have out there? Yes. But will most of those teams' prospect pools end up producing the same number of NHL players as those 8 guys that I currently listed off for the Avs? Yeah. At least NHL players who hit 100 games. That's the harsh reality of prospects in the NHL. You can have, again, I think we're going into what? The 4th year of Oskar Olausson being a guy that we think could potentially be there. And I was told by someone last season, whom I trust very much on this type of evaluation, he's probably still 2 to 3 years out. You know, I don't know. There's a lot of guys that are in that caliber that never take the next step. And that has nothing to do with Oskar Olausson. I'm not saying that about him. I'm saying that with when you look at these other prospect pools. There's a lot of exciting names out there. And obviously, you know, new players have to come into the league, so they're going to come from somewhere. But, you know, I just, prospect pools, I think, are always a little bit misleading because you're grading them based on where you see the player right now, when by the end of the season, a lot of those lists will look very different in terms of not only where those players are, but what scouts and organizations think of those players will be very different by the end of the year. You know, we'll have, let's take Macklin Celebrini. First overall pick. High expectations for him coming into San Jose, given the college career he had. He's from the Bay Area, et cetera, et cetera. Our idea of Macklin Celebrini could be drastically different 6 months from now. If he comes in, I mean, look at a guy like Alexis Lafreniere in New York. Went from being, holy smokes, this kid's going to be unstoppable, to, he struggled in his first year. Can he turn it around? Then suddenly the conversation was, is this kid even an NHL player? Are we into reclamation project status with this guy? Now suddenly coming out of the playoffs, he's being looked at again as like, oh, yep, future 1C for the New York Rangers. 1C set and forget for the next 15 years, Alexis Lafreniere. A lot of this stuff changes, right? The Rangers were potentially ready to dump Lafreniere this time last year. Now it's looking like, well, why would you ever move on from that guy? Things change with young players quickly. You know, Cale Makar was drafted 4th overall, and after his rookie season, a lot of people were like, yeah, he'll be good. His rookie season in college. After his freshman year with UMass, a lot of people were like, he'll be good, but as we thought, once he got up against a bigger, stronger, he wasn't as dominant. Well, then by the time he was winning the Hobey Baker and coming out of the national championship game, people were back to thinking this guy was going to be elite. But even people like me were saying, well, pump the brakes. Let's see how he can settle in. You know, it's going to be tougher at the NHL level. And Cale Makar just took off right away. It's hard to project these players is what I'm saying. I'm telling you, as someone who's up close with the Avs and their organization a lot, I think there's plenty of players to be excited about, especially when you consider where this Avs team is sitting competitively. A couple quick comments here. The Avs free agent moves will be the addition of Landeskog and Nichushkin at some point this season. I think it's expected they return. It's just a win situation now. Absolutely. The Avs had a lot of defensemen that they leveraged into current roster players, so they depleted their prospect pool. Right, that's the other part with it too, and not just defensemen. The Avs have had a lot of guys that they've dealt to improve the roster right now. We talked about that earlier, but they're 100% right on that comment of the Avs are sitting where they're sitting prospect-wise because they've made use of those assets, right? It's not just like a lot of those prospects haven't panned out. A lot of those prospects are still around the league. And, they've made the Avs a better team in the immediate. And there's a lot of those that you could argue, yeah, not only were they a better team in the immediate, but you wouldn't have been a better team had you waited for that full development track to play out. So, all right, I think that's it. I'm done talking by myself, and I think you guys are done listening to me by myself. But I keep talking about how excited we are here at Guerilla for a lot of the different things that we've got coming for this season. We're we're making a lot of changes. We took a lot of what we did last year, and we've learned from just how we do things, how we want to do things, what we want to provide you guys. Because as it relates to this beat in particular, I've told you guys before, my goal is to provide 13-year-old Jesse with the coverage of this team that he would have wanted. And that's thorough, that's in depth, that's driven by access, and bringing you closer to players and topics that you guys want to know about and that you want to hear about, and taking advantage of the fact that we've got an unbelievable team here, and unbelievable access to bring you guys what you guys truly want. So over the next couple weeks, as we head into camp, I think you guys will start to see and hear a lot more of our plans for this season. And it's just exciting that we're at this point where I can start talking about our, it's not that I'm like I wasn't able to, but it's tangible now. It's a couple weeks away. And as always, we're always working hard to collaborate with the other outlets in town, the other outstanding media members that we've got that also cover this team, because we here at Guerilla really do view it as we want to give you guys the best coverage. We're not worried about, it just needs to be our people or whatever. We want to bring you guys the coverage that you want. So as always, shoot me DMs, shoot Guerilla DMs, send us emails. Let us know what you guys want to see, because that's what we want to provide to you guys. And I really am excited for a couple of the announcements that we'll be making over the next couple of weeks, just with like, hey, and now this is coming, and hey, now we're doing this, and the launch of this and the launch of that. And it's really exciting times here at Guerilla. And then my last little announcement here, we mentioned it last week, and they should be here very, very soon. So we'll be making another strong push on this, but we will have Avs schedule magnets for you guys for free that we'll be sending out to the folks who want them here very soon. It'll be a magnet with a little bit of our info at the top, and then the Avs 24-25 season schedule. You can stick it right to the fridge, keep it there all year long. Big thank you to you guys, honestly, for sticking with us and really help putting us in a situation coming out of the Avs season last year that we were able to make the strides that we've been able to make this summer. We've been a little, and this is maybe going to sound crazy because we do shows 5 days a week, but like we've been a little bit behind the curtain this summer. And we're going to pull the curtain back and show you guys what all we've got going. And we got to introduce you guys to Chloe, who just walked into the studio. So it's going to be good. There she is. There's Chloe running the socials for us. Chloe is her name. Yes, I need to get Motion here before the season starts. Make sure you guys are liking the videos, subscribing on YouTube. That helps us out more than you know. And again, you guys aren't going to want to miss any of the stuff we've got coming for you guys this year. We are once again, just like we were last year, planning on being at all 82 Avalanche games, the only independent media outlet to attend all 82 Colorado Avalanche games last year, live and in person. We'll be doing that again for you guys this season. And it was my favorite part of the job last year, was to be able to, like I said, provide you guys the coverage that I've always wanted of this team. So that'll only continue. That is going to do it for me for today. I've got more meetings to head back up to upstairs. We got Guerrilla Sports Off Field coming up at 2. Liv Moods, Nate Jackson, Brandon Cristal talking all things Broncos as they finally wrapped up the preseason. Bo Nix is a starter. Cut day coming tomorrow. They'll have all that for you guys coming up at 2. But I'll be back on the mic tomorrow with JJ Jerez previewing this Avs season as we are getting ever closer to the start of camp and rookie camp coming up in just a couple weeks, followed by the tournament, which we, Guerrilla Sports, will be at in LA, bringing you guys everything. Exciting times, guys. Exciting stuff. We'll work on getting Mojo in here. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. For Jay, I'm Jesse. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.